What are you doing in my swamp?
Hello everybody, this is Overboy and I'm going to be doing my review for the 2007 movie Spider-Man 3. So this one is once again directed by Sam Raimi and written by him and his brother Ivan Raimi and Alvin Sargent, who had helped write Spider-Man 2. And this movie is chocked full of different storylines. Like, there is so much going on in this movie that it could have been at least 2 separate movies and stuff. Like there's just a whole lot of stuff going on, and it's really kind of convoluted. The story picks up a year after Spider-Man 2, and Peter and MJ's relationship is going really good, and MJ's starring in a play on Broadway. Harry still isn't talking to Peter and stuff because of the stuff with Norman Osborn, and they end up fighting, and Harry bumps his head and loses his memory, which is, it's really kind of silly the way he does when he falls. It kind of makes his pinball sound kind of like they did in Freddy vs. Jason when Freddy was fighting him in the dream world. And everything, but Harry loses his memory, so he thinks that him and Peter are still best friends, not remembering what was going on. And we also get to meet Flint Marko, who becomes the Sandman, and he's supposed to be the one that actually killed Uncle Ben and everything. So that meant that the guy that Peter hunted down in the first movie wasn't even the actual killer of Uncle Ben and everything, and he didn't save him when he fell out the window, so he's having regrets about that. And there's another little subplot with Mary Jane that doesn't really go anywhere. She gets fired from her job, and she's keeping it from Peter, and she ends up spending time with Harry, which makes him have his memory return. And then he gets in this fight with Peter after the symbiote that was at the beginning of the movie gets on Peter's suit and stuff. The symbiote, like when Mary Jane and Peter are on a date, falls from the sky and stuff, and it attaches itself to Peter's bike, and he gets it in his apartment, and it gets on his suit and turns his suit black, and he starts realizing how much more powerful he is with it, and so he uses it to fight the Sandman and get rid of him. And then he fights Harry and gets rid of him after Harry gets MJ to break up with Peter, and a whole lot of overly dramatic stuff going on in this movie. And he gets his revenge on Eddie Brock for using a fake photo of Spider-Man to try to win a job, and it just takes a lot of it has so many different little plot lines with so many different characters that it just doesn't really know what to do with a lot of it. And it all comes down to Eddie becoming Venom, and Sandman and Venom teaming up to go against Peter, who ends up teaming up with Harry to take them on and save Mary Jane once again. This movie, it's crazy. I loved this movie a lot when I was a teenager. When it first came out, I was like 14 years old and really excited because I had never seen a Spider-Man movie in the theater, and that was my first one I got to see in the theater, and I was really excited for it and absolutely loved it. I was kind of blind to all the problems that this movie had because I was just so excited about it, seeing a Spider-Man movie in the theater for once. And as time has gone on, I've started really seeing the criticisms people have for this movie. It really is convoluted and chocked way too full of different stories. Like there was so much in this movie that they could have split it into 2 parts and everything. Personally, I think that the whole subplot with the symbiote suit and Venom should have been left out and stuff, because it just felt like it was shoehorned in there. They had a good enough story with Sandman and Harry that they didn't really need Venom in there. And if nothing else, if they wanted to keep the symbiote suit, they could have kept it in there and made it where Spider-Man has to face Venom in a potential fourth movie. Maybe ended the movie with the scene where Harry gets the symbiote on him, and have it where Venom is like a looming threat throughout Spider-Man 4. That would have been a much better idea. But I know that Sam Raimi didn't even want to have Spider-Man in here. Not Spider-Man, Venom. You can't have a Spider-Man movie without Spider-Man. But Sam Raimi didn't even want Venom in here, but the studio pretty much forced him into it, so he had to shoehorn him in there, and it really shows in the final product that he shoehorned him in there. And I think that they decided just to go as campy and crazy with this movie as they could, because and everything, it's like, I'm not going to get to make the movie that I really want to make, so might as well just go ahead and do it this way. And it's really campy and cheesy and everything, which the first two movies have their cheesy moments and stuff, and it adds to the charm of those movies. And this one has its moments too, where the cheesy stuff is just a lot of fun to watch, but at times it also kind of gets a little overdone. Like, they overdo it with the cheesy and corny stuff in here. It has some really, really corny dialogue, especially in the some of the scenes with Peter and MJ and stuff. And Peter is really, really cringy throughout the whole movie, which if you on the internet, you know there's always memes and stuff from this movie because of how hilarious it is at times. Like, I don't know if it's intentionally hilarious or not, but there's a lot of stuff that in here that's just really campy and stuff, and some of it works and some of it doesn't. I think if they would have kept Venom out, it might have worked a little bit better. I don't really know a whole lot about the Sandman's origins and stuff, except I don't think he wasn't actually Uncle Ben's killer until this movie and everything. I know a lot of people don't like that part of that subplot. It didn't really bother me. I actually kind of thought it was kind of cool that they made him the killer and kind of tied things together with the first one. I did like that, and I like how a lot of things tie together by the end of the movie. Like things come full circle for the three main characters. Their friendship is restored and all of that with Harry and everything. I like that and everything. It has that bittersweet ending with Mary Jane and Peter dancing and stuff. I like that. And I think that most of the characters had decent endings to their story, except for Venom. Like I said, Eddie Brock and Venom just were done pretty dirty in this movie. Although, to be honest, after rewatching the two Venom movies, I kind of think I would prefer this one over those. I just wish that he would have had more screen time and stuff. Although I don't really know. I really like Tom Hardy as Venom and Eddie Brock in the first movie. I just didn't really like the way they handled him in the second one. But I don't think Topher Grace is near as bad as everybody says. And personally, I feel like he fits in this universe fine. His version going up against Tobey Maguire, to me it made more sense having someone smaller and that was close to his size and everything. I think it worked. Was it super great casting? No. And there's a lot of parts in here where I can't take him seriously as Eddie Brock, though, or especially as Venom at the end of it when he's like, I like being bad, it makes me happy. And it's like, okay, Eric, lay off the pot. And there's one part in there when Spider-Man breaks his thing and he says, what the hell? I was waiting for him to say Fez after he said what the hell, like you would say on that 70s show where he'd say what the hell, Fez, and stuff like that. It just, he was really hard to take seriously as Eddie Brock after watching that 70s show. But and I think that him leaving that show to do this movie was a pretty dumb idea. I guess he was hoping it'd launch a movie career, but it pretty much did the opposite. He still makes movies and stuff, you just don't see him as often and everything, but I don't think he's near as bad as some people say, though. He does the best with what he has to work with and everything. Like I said, the character shouldn't have been in this movie anyway, and they also shoehorned Gwen Stacy in here as this character that Peter uses to make Mary Jane jealous, because she's already jealous of her and everything, because he is acting like a jerk throughout the movie, and he does a lot of stuff that's out of character even before he gets a symbiote. Like, he makes out with Gwen Stacy in front of everybody at this little thing when Spider-Man's getting a key to the city, doing the same upside down kiss that him and Mary Jane had and stuff. I didn't really like that scene. Even when I saw it for the first time, I was like, man, that's really jacked up and everything. Like I know I've said in past couple videos I didn't really like how they handled Mary Jane, especially in Spider-Man 2, but this movie I actually kind of liked her more in this. I actually kind of felt bad for her because Peter really was not being very good to her. It's like you finally got the girl after 2 movies and you kind of just are a neglectful boyfriend that just acts like you care about yourself. He's letting his ego go to his head even before he gets a symbiote and stuff. He finally gets a big wake-up call by the end of the movie, but it really is a different tone. Like all the characters, just it feels like all of them are different. Even Harry, like, he's more cheerful in this movie than he was either of the first 2 movies and stuff. Like, it just feels really different. But the visual effects in here, some of it holds up really good, and some of it actually looks even more dated than the first 2 movies, which kind of surprised me too. Some of the CGI in here is pretty bad, but a lot of it is pretty good. I think Sandman still holds up really well, and I think Venom looks pretty good in here. I actually think I like the design of Venom in this movie more than I do in the actual Venom movies. I think he looks a lot better in these and everything. That's one thing about Venom that I can say. I did really like his look and everything. I just wish it would have done something better with him. And Christopher Young takes over doing the score for this instead of Danny Elfman, and I actually really like his score. I think he did a really good job on it. It's not quite as good as the Danny Elfman scores, but it's one of the highlights of the movie. And also I feel like they really misused Rosemary Harris in this one as Aunt May. She only has a few scenes in here, and she doesn't really do a lot, and she doesn't have any really big important moments in here like she does in the other 2 movies, and I thought that kind of sucked too. But yeah, there's a lot of really good and bad things about this. I don't think the dancing stuff is as bad as some people say it is, but it does kind of get a little bit old at times, because they do dance a lot, like the characters, and not just Peter in the one scene and everything, but he dances and when he's on the streets acting like a goofball and everything, thinking he's all edgy and stuff when he's being emo Peter. And then you get him in the nightclub, which is, to me, the cringiest scene in the movie is the nightclub scene when he's running his mouth to the security guards and stuff, and he ends up accidentally hitting Mary Jane and stuff. That scene just, it makes me cringe every time I watch it, when he's dancing with Gwen and stuff to make Mary Jane jealous. And I don't really like the way they did Gwen in this movie either. She's like a really popular and great character, and they just did her dirty too and everything. So all in all, I think Spider-Man 3 is just alright. It's not complete garbage. I know there are a lot of people that absolutely hate this movie. Now, I'm never really that bored with it when I watch it, but I do say it is a big dip in quality compared to the first 2 and everything. It's definitely not one of my most favorite Spider-Man movies anymore. When I first saw it and stuff, I loved it as much as the first 2, but as time has gone on and stuff, it's aged the worst out of the 3 movies and everything. It just it's not super great. But like I said, it does have its moments. It could be a lot worse though. There are way worse movies out there. Like I said, I'd rather watch this over either of the Venom movies. But it's mediocre and everything. So I'd say I'd give Spider-Man 3 a 7 out of 10. And everything. So let me know in the comments what you think of Spider-Man 3. Do you think it's one of the worst superhero movies ever made, like some people do? Do you think it's underrated, or do you think it's just okay, like I do? I kind of think it's a little bit underrated, but I also can understand why people don't like it, because it is really convoluted and has way too much stuff going on in here. But yeah, anyway, let me know in the comments what you think of Spider-Man 3, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a good day, everybody.